The next way we want to look at factoring polynomials is by something called grouping. And when I look at the idea of grouping, what that means is I am grouping two terms together, like I am grouping these two terms and these two terms. And what I want to do is I want to look at these two terms, x cubed minus 2x squared, and figure out what is the greatest common factor between all these terms. So if I look at this, the greatest common thing I can see is that they both have an x squared. So what I'm going to do is factor out an x squared, and I end up with x squared times x minus 2. If I were to multiply x squared times x, I would get x cubed. X squared times minus 2 gets me minus 2x squared. Now I want to look at these two terms and say, what goes into both of these terms? And the greatest thing they have is a 9. But because this is a negative, and I don't really like negatives in front of my leading term, I'm going to factor out a negative 9. Negative 9 is the greatest common thing between those two terms. So I end up with negative 9. If I take negative 9x divided by negative 9, I get x. And I take 18 divided by negative 9, I get a minus 2. So what I notice is that I have two x minus 2's. Now if you remember, when we were multiplying stuff, like if I were multiplying x minus 2 times x plus 3, one of the ways that we did that was we took x and multiplied it by x plus 3, and then we took the minus 2 and multiplied it by x plus 3. Well, all factoring is undoing what we did. So kind of now what we're doing is we're working backwards. So because I have 2x minus 2's, that means that kind of like how I had 2x minus 2's up here, I split them into two parts. Well, now I'm going to put the x squared and the minus 9 together again. So I have x squared minus 9 times x minus 2. Okay. If I were to distribute it, x squared, I would get x cubed minus 2x squared minus 9x plus 18. So that checks out. Now I look at this x squared minus 9 and think, are these both perfect squares? Yes. Is there a minus sign in between them? So I can factor that. And I can get x plus 3, x minus 3, and then x minus 2. So this would be my fully factored out solution. Let's look at another one. So I'm back here. I want to figure out what is the greatest common term between these two and then these two terms. So these both have a 5, and they both have x squared. So I'm going to factor out a 5x squared. And I'm left with x plus 1. The greatest common term is 1 there, so I'm going to factor out a 1. So right now I got 5x squared plus 1 times x plus 1. So I have 3 questions that I want you guys to try to do, and we will go over them tomorrow.